Welcome to Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free, a podcast for people who are ready to clear the physical, the mental, and the emotional clutter that's been weighing them down. I'm Melanie Cohen, your host, coach, and guide. Each week, we talk about the clutter you can see and the clutter you can't. The stuff in your home, the noise in your head, the expectations, habits, and unmade decisions that quietly drain your energy. This isn't about perfection or minimalism. It's about creating space for what actually matters in this season of your life. Let's lighten up together, starting now. Welcome back to another episode of Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free, the place where we talk about all things clutter. I'm Melanie, your host, coach, and guide. And today I have with me Stacey Tunteri. Let me just tell you a little bit about her. She is a life and legacy organizer who helps people get organized before life forces difficult decisions upon them. She works with smart, capable individuals who feel overwhelmed by modern life. The paperwork, passwords, digital clutter, and important plans that are easy to postpone and hard to face alone. Many of her clients did not grow up with today's technology, yet are expected to manage it seamlessly, which often leads to stress and avoidance. Stacey helps people organize their digital lives, vital documents, and legacy plans so critical information is clear, accessible, and useful when it matters most. Her work is not about death. It is about care, clarity, and making life easier for the people you love. Stacey, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I love everything that you do. When I read, it's not about death, it's about care, clarity, and making life easier for the people you love. One of the things that I talk about a lot is, so how do you want to leave this for everybody? This is how I got a few people in my life to start addressing their clutter. And it was, what do you want your legacy to be? So It sounds so similar. So you tell me more. What does legacy really mean to you?
It means so many different things, and it's going to mean something different to every individual person. I think of, okay, if something happens to me, how much work am I foisting upon my loved ones at a moment when they are really trying to grieve and mourn? Am I making them basically take on a second unpaid part-time job to handle my stuff because I failed to leave them a breadcrumb trail? So for me, I decided that was not the legacy I wanted. And so I have really painstakingly built out this breadcrumb trail for my people. But it can also mean your memories. What are things that were important to you? Stories, historical contexts that were a big deal that you really want to pass on to future generations? How would you like to tell those stories? Are you a writer? Do you want to capture it in writing? Do you want somebody to record a video with you talking? Is it an audio recording? Is it a scrapbook, a photo library? How would you like to capture those important moments and memories and make them accessible to future generations? It could be a financial legacy. What are you leaving financially for your loved ones? Or maybe you're not a person of means. Are you leaving them with funeral expenses that you didn't prepare for? So this is all encompassing. This word legacy. It means so many different things.
I love that. So I don't think many of us go off to college and say, I'm going to do legacy work later. So I think that all of us, wherever we are, that we took some circuitous path to get to where we are. So what was your path? How did you get here?
Mine was very circuitous. So I started, my original plan in life was to be a therapist, actually. I got a master's degree in community counseling, and I was a social worker for a couple of years. And I think it's no surprise that burnout's pretty high in that profession. So I burned out in a whopping 2 years and decided to try something totally different. So I ended up in the healthcare industry on the administrative side for almost, I would say, 22 years. And then I decided I have this entrepreneurial heart, and I just always felt really boxed in a corporate day job. And so I decided to strike out and do my own thing. But I didn't actually have a plan or know what I wanted to do. So I took some time off work, and I did a whole bunch of deferred maintenance type of stuff on my own house. And one of those projects was we painted the interior, which required us to effectively move out in a way because we had to pack everything into boxes, move them to the center of the room so the painters could tarp around it. When I did that, I went through closets because I even had them paint, they were even inside closets. I couldn't believe how much stuff we had. There's only 2 people living in this house, and the amount of stuff was absolutely shocking. And I really had to confront the fact that I maybe had an acquisition problem, little retail therapy too much, and I kind of started to see dollar signs on all of this stuff that was in the middle of the floors in each room. And I realized I needed to make some changes. So it really sparked massive behavior and lifestyle change for me. And when everything was done and put back together, I really would say the quality of my life improved because my eyes had soft places to land that weren't completely filled with clutter. Everything had a place. If I brought something new into the house, it's like, okay, what am I going to get rid of to make room for this thing? Like, I was able to implement a system of organization for the first time in my life that it absolutely saved me time, saved me money, improved my sanity, reduced my stress level. I felt more productive, like I could just do more with less. And I don't know, I like that changed my life in such a way that I was like, okay, I'm going to be a home organizer. That's what I'm going to do. So I did that for a couple of years, but that's also a very physically demanding job, especially if you don't have a team. And I didn't feel like that was going to be a sustainable path for me because I'm looking at this as like a 20-year career. So I just
Sure.
kind of took my professional organizing in a different direction that made it so I could still do that one-on-one client work and also protect my body. But this digital organizing piece is so important, particularly for older adults who just did not grow up with this technology, and they're really lost and they need some help. And I actually have a lot of patience and the ability to work with people of a lot of different, wherever you fall on the tech savvy spectrum, I can probably help you out.
That's fantastic. And so I hear that while you work with people in various stages of life and stages of what they need done, is there an age group that you predominantly work with? Like, is there an average in there somewhere?
Yeah, I don't have any clients younger than 40, like late 40s. So
Hmm.
most of my clients I would say are like 65 and older.
Hmm.
And that's the cohort that I mean, I'm also not a digital native, but I kind of came to the internet and tech tools in my like late teens, early 20s. So I think your brain is still pretty plastic and it's easy for you to pick up new information at that point in your life. So for folks that are like 10 and 15 years ahead of me, it's not easy for them, for most of them. I can't make broad generalizations, but yeah, so most of the people that need my help are in that cohort.
One of the reasons I asked is that I predominantly work with women who are in the middle of life. And when I say in the middle, we could be talking about ages. We could be talking about that 40 to 65. But I also feel very strongly that in the middle is not um, evaluated by age. It's evaluated by the weight that you're carrying. And,
Yeah.
for some of us in those years are now caring for aging parents, or maybe there are other aging people in our lives that we find responsibility for. I like to say about my kids, they don't need me as much anymore that they're out of the house, but they still need me. And my business needs me and my friends and like all of those things, and then you're weighed down by everything. And taking care of this stuff now
Hmm.
is your legacy. I
Yeah.
don't want my kids to have to do all of the cleaning and organizing and, uploading and downloading and all the things. I want to make their job later easier. We said to someone very special in my life who listens, how do you want to leave this? And the things that I often like to say are, when you're gone, actually, I think we've said this to many people. When you're gone, there's a few choices. One is that we've done all this work ahead of time so that when you're gone, we can immediately step into honoring you and memorializing you, whether it's listening to your favorite music or eating your favorite food, telling stories, doing all the above.
Hmm.
Or if we don't take care of it now, it's only going to get worse. And then when you're gone, we have to jump into do mode and really don't have the opportunity to do those memorializing things. And we're probably also cursing you out because of how frustrated we are. So I want that to happen for me from the older generation. I also want to leave it that way for my kids. And
Hmm.
I think to your point, the more digital that we are, it can be both easier and harder to do all those things if you don't have a support system like you, right?
Absolutely true.
So what does working with you look like then?
Well, it's very similar to when I was doing residential organizing. Initially, I thought, oh, I'm digital organizing. I can do this remotely, which is just folks that really struggle with technology are not that keen on jumping on a Zoom call. And
Right.
a lot of the stuff I do for folks, I really do need to be there in person. So a typical session for me is anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. Most people cannot handle more than 5 hours because it just is so tiring. I can go all day, but my clients usually cannot. But I'll go to their home. I usually bring my own devices because if I'm adjusting their computer settings or trying to teach them different things, it's sometimes easier for me to kind of start with my own setup and then have them practice on their own. So it kind of looks like two command stations, like me and my tech over here and you and your tech over there. And I'm showing people how to do certain things on their computers. Or we may, like I had a client recently that we're just filing paperwork because she had a filing system, but she moved and she hadn't really filed anything new for about a year and a half and it piled up. She got overwhelmed and she's like, I need a person to come in here and like sit here until I get this done. And so
For
sometimes
sure.
it's no technology. Sometimes it's just you've got to get some order around the paper chaos in your office or home, and I can come and help with that. A
Right.
lot of my job background was as a executive assistant or like a chief of staff type of role. I've always been very organized. I've always been tasked with putting systems around gnarly things, and so whatever your particular disorganization challenge is, I can probably work with it.
Right. What I'm hearing from you is that a lot of the clutter, whether it's digital or physical, becomes exacerbated as you get older. For if no other reason, your mobility is different. Whether it means that you can't bend over and pick things up or you can't reach things or your energy level does not give you the time and then all of a sudden that pile packs up. And if you're also someone who is a recovering perfectionist like you and I are,
Mhm.
it's that perspective that I have to get it all done. And I have to
Mhm.
get it all done right now, as
Yeah.
opposed to how about we work on just that stack? Or why don't we just work on the top 10 pieces of paper on that stack? And because that's amazing. And often you say 10 pages and then you end up having finished the stack because you gave yourself such a ridiculously simple goal that everything else all of a sudden, like comes together. But I find with a lot of the older adults I work with that the exhaustion level physically and mentally is what prevents them from getting it done. So you're laughing. What does that mean to you?
You know, I've had clients that after like the first hour, I just like I notice their body posture and it's just like lots of
Right.
heavy sighing and just like you can just tell that they're physically exhausted from the mental load that's required of all its decision making. Or in organizing, you probably know this, but we call all of the clutter that you have in your life is basically deferred decision. So every thing that piles up, whether it's stinking thinking or physical things in your environment, it represents a decision that you have yet to make. So if you're gonna sit down with somebody and say, today's the day, we're gonna get some things done. What I'm saying is we're going to make a lot of decisions today. We're going to decide what goes in the shred pile, what gets saved for reference, what gets filed, where does it get filed? If we're talking about online stuff, same thing. So that decision making is very tiring. And a lot of times there's an emotional component with it too, because people are just as resistant to get rid of their digital stuff and their paper as they are with any other physical stuff. But I might need that. So the stress of letting it go is really a thing I think can really deplete your energy. So it sounds silly, but I always tell my clients, I'm like, make sure before our appointment, try to get a good night's sleep. Try to feed yourself some nutritious food before I arrive and definitely drink a lot of water because hydration helps your brain function. So, like, taking care of your physical body in preparation for one of these sessions is really essential for me too, because it is amazing how
Yes,
tiring
yes,
it can be.
yes. Yes, yes, yes to everything you said, 100%. In fact, I did a whole episode called Clutter is Unmade Decisions. So anybody interested, go back and check that one out. But saying everything that Stacey just said, that pile is building up because like I can't deal with it now. I can't deal with it now is usually associated with my brain can't deal with it now. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I talk about a lot, whether it's in my coaching programs or on the podcast, is that whole idea of decision fatigue. And, the longer the day goes by, the more thoughts have crossed our mind, and more thoughts means more decisions that need to be made. And I think so many of us at the end of the day, when we find ourselves incapable of making a decision, we're beating ourselves up for not being able to make those decisions when our brain is not supposed to do all of that. It's not supposed to be making decisions like 18 hours straight. And if I think one, eat the frog, which for anybody listening is like, eat the frog. Do the hardest thing first, because once you swallow the frog, everything else is easier. It's a great book for anybody who's interested. And so often that means taking care of the hard decisions and doing the hard things so that you get them out of the way. The rest of the decisions become easier. And you haven't saved that hard thing for later when you're like, I can't deal with this now. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that's very valuable. I want to go back to something you said earlier when you were talking about your path to where you
Yeah.
are, and you were talking about cleaning up the house so that you can paint. And one of the things that you talked about was like looking around and putting dollar symbols on
Yeah.
all of the things that you do. And I'm not sure I've talked about this in exactly that way on the podcast. So I'd love to explore that more, because I think for me, now that like 95% of the clothing that I buy is secondhand, um,
Me
I
too.
do have yay for sustainability and cool things at the thrift shop.
Got this shirt on
Um,
ThredUp.
oh, I got this one in a thrift shop. And the earrings were secondhand, and well, I'm not gonna show you. I'm wearing sweatpants. I have no problem in saying, and these came from my daughter's drawer when she moved out. But I think, if I look at my closet and said, well, I bought this at a thrift shop for $4, $4.99, whatever it was, and I've worn it 4 or 5 times, it's $1 a wearing. And I have worn it way more than that. I'm probably at pennies on the dollar. I don't think enough of us think about how much is this going to cost me per use. And so that's great for jewelry, clothing, etc., but it could also be gadgets in the kitchen. So tell me more about when you were looking around dollar signs on stuff. What were the things that you were seeing?
Shoes were a big thing for me. I had a lot of shoes. There's a movie from many, many years ago with Cameron Diaz, and so it's two sisters, and one of them has like a huge, like a wing of her house. She's very wealthy. She has this huge room that's all shoes, and her sister was like, "What's with all the shoes?" And she said, "Shoes always fit." So if your body fluctuates up and down, and you don't feel good about yourself, your feet generally stay the same size. So a lot, a lot of ladies buy shoes because they always fit. But, like, I looked at my lifestyle and I was like, "Do not need this many pairs of shoes. This is so absurd." And I was tripping over them because I was running out of places, the good places to put them. And some people, when they think about getting organized, they think if they just find the right container or system, that that's gonna cure the clutter problem. And I just wanna say, no, don't buy containers. Do an edit of the stuff that you have. Like, the less stuff you have, the less stuff you have to find space for. I mean, I definitely spend money on shoes because I like them to be comfortable, and those are pricey. I just didn't need as
Yeah.
many as I had, and I actually got an Excel spreadsheet out, and I opened up like a amortization calculator that would show
Uh-huh.
me compounding interest. If I had taken like a $200 pair of shoes and put that money into a savings account that actually earned money, times how many pairs of shoes we're talking about, I mean, my retirement portfolio would look a lot different today than it does.
That's incredible. And I think you said something else, and that was maybe I had that much stuff because of the concept of retail therapy, which I think so many of us understand. For anybody listening for the first time, I came to my journey having been a weight loss coach first. So I have weighed well over 200 pounds, and I'm a short girl. So 200 pounds is a lot. When I was losing weight, I was obviously going down in size, and my shoe size changed when I lost
Oh,
weight. So there's that. There's that. But I lost 65 pounds. With that kind of weight loss, there's going to be changes in like hats even were fitting differently. And one of my favorite necklaces, I always thought was a choker. I lost the weight and now it rests lower on the neck. So like everything changes. But the point that I'm making is when I stopped using food as a way to manage uncomfortable feelings or boredom or anything, it became shopping. That's where my clutter came from. And I had the excuse, well, I went down another size. Well, if I didn't replace everything every time I went down a size, and when I got down to like really close to my goal weight, all of a sudden it wasn't like, oh, that shirt is nice. Oh, that shirt looks great on me. And then all of a sudden, because it was making me feel so good, we can talk about that dopamine hit, and then it gets us in the dopamine loop, and then we're screwed. But then that means if I'm not going to overshop and I'm not going to stuff my place with stuff, then what is the new way to get a dopamine hit so that I'm not spending too much money? I'm not creating more clutter. I am not creating more mental clutter because, like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have spent the money. Like all of those words that come out of our mouths that beat us up, right? So, what did you do when you stopped buying shoes?
I feel like I was getting a pretty good dose of dopamine just from the serenity that I created in my space. Because I like to just be in my physical space now in a way that it's so crazy. I would buy things because the dopamine hit of clicking buy now on your shopping cart is so intoxicating. But then when it comes into the house, you're just like, oh God, where do I put this now? The closet's already overflowing. I've got a hanger bar that's this wide and it's like so tight. I can't even get another hanger on that thing. Like, where do I put this? And then it just felt like I was tripping over things. I've always, like I said, I've always been a natural organizer. So I organized everything meticulously, and the volume of it was more than I could reasonably deal with. So I would not spend a lot of time in some of my spaces because they were just full. And that's sad. So
So,
yeah.
I want to touch on so many things you just said. And one, I think, well, we both live in cities. You live in San Francisco. I live in New York. Neither of us have, like huge walk in closets. It's amazing how much we can stuff when we really want to. But there is something very satisfying about opening the closet. And I mean, mine is, I do Roy G. Biv, and then there's a whole lot of gray and black at the end. And there's something very satisfying about being able to find something quickly. Or while I'm not the biggest Marie Kondo fan by any stretch of the imagination, I love how she folds shirts.
Oh,
And so my t-shirt drawer, I like to show that off to people. And I do after I've worn it, I put it back to the other side. That way, over time, something that's stuck in the middle, I know that that's something that maybe it's time to let go of. But there is something very satisfying about that. And so many people in the world of sustainability say, enjoy what you have,
yeah.
whether it's sitting in peace and my Hundertwasser paintings over there and the Kandinsky's over there. Like, what would happen if I just sat and looked at them? They may not be the originals. It's not like going to a museum or an art gallery, but like really appreciating our surroundings. And if there's too much stuff, it's really hard to enjoy those things, be it, small or large, or just like being able to make dinner faster and clean up faster, not because the kitchen is organized, but because there's not too much in the kitchen. I love that you said that because I don't think enough people are willing to just sit back and really enjoy and appreciate what they have, as opposed to feeling like, oh, it's winter. I have to have all different pillows on my couch because it's winter. Why? Why? I know people who bring out linen pillows in the summer and in the winter they have wool. And I'm like, I got year-round pillows.
You need a place to store the pillows that are not in season. And where is that exactly?
Right? Okay, so the other thing that I meant to go back to was that idea of buying containers.
Yeah.
Because I get asked all the time, recommendations for organizational systems. And I say to people on a regular basis, I help people declutter. And if you're constantly organizing the same thing over and over again, you didn't get rid of enough stuff. And yes, there are reasons for containers. My Hanukkah stuff is in a container. My Halloween stuff is in a container. They come out, they both have their own, month and a half that they get to be out, and then they go back in the containers. And I get it. Like putting shoes in boxes makes sense, but you don't have to. But not getting the containers because you have so many pairs of shoes that you don't have, an efficient way of storing them. So you suggest we don't need containers. When do containers become important to you as an organizer?
Containers inside drawers and cupboards because it's really handy so they help things inside of a drawer. They help things from just being a giant jumbled pile. They can help give you visual separation so you can keep like things with like imagine the drawer that maybe you have an office supply drawer and you've got, I don't know, paper clips, post-it notes, a pair of scissors, and a whole bunch of other stuff. If that's all in there loose, you're maybe going to cut yourself on a pair of scissors and you're not going to find the one thing that you're actually looking for because a whole bunch of other stuff is going to come out when you put your hand in there and grab it. So little containers inside drawers are really amazing because it really gives you that separation. And then you can really see what you have. So you're not going back to the office supply store and buying another pack of Post-it notes because you couldn't find the 15 you already had. And then inside closet, same thing. It's nice if you can just pull a bin that's labeled. I have 2 bins in my closet right now that are labeled winter and even more winter. So it's like mittens and scarves and stuff. And then if we're really serious, we're going to go into the mountains this week. I got mittens in there. Pull the whole bin out and then you can see what's in there. And then you put the whole bin back and you're not rifling through things that you've carefully folded or whatever and, messing it all up. So those are 2 arguments I have for containers inside other spaces.
100%. Okay. So you're a very organized person and you recognized in this journey that was actually something you enjoyed. Where does your husband stand on the organization and stuff?
Great question. I'm very lucky because if I can create a system that he can try and actually buy into, he will
Mhm.
maintain it. And he has told me multiple times, as I create some new system or some flow in the household, he's like, I don't know about this. He'll come back to me a couple weeks later and be like, that actually made things a lot easier. You mentioned the Marie Kondo folding of the t-shirts. My husband has a uniform and that is t-shirts and cargo pants. 365 days a year, t-shirt, cargo pants. That's what he's wearing. So his t-shirt drawer, it's pretty packed in there. We were able to kind of condense, he got down from 2 whole drawers of t-shirts to just the one. Same number of t-shirts, mind you. But he went on a business trip and came home and I had Marie Kondo'd his drawer. And I was like, he's never going to stick with this. He now will not let me fold his t-shirts because he knows exactly where the fold needs to be so that he can get 4 rows of t-shirts in that drawer. And he folds them with if the shirt has a thing on the front or the back, he'll fold it with that facing up. It's like he opened that drawer and he was like, "Oh my God, I can actually see what I have. I know exactly which shirt is which shirt." And he's kept it. He's maintained it for, I'm going to say, about 6 years.
I love that.
So, yeah.
My husband too. And it's exactly the same thing. It's the t-shirts. And the reason I ask is because I know for so many people, it's when you're trying to find an organizational strategy that works for you. So many people live with someone else or multiple
Mhm.
someones. And you have to, accommodate them. I mean, all the research shows that women are way more likely to be stressed and overwhelmed by clutter than men
Mhm.
are. It isn't all men, and it's not all women for
Right.
sure. But I think it helps because, and I say this on the show a lot, if they don't understand because they're perfectly happy to live in clutter, then you just need to communicate what your need for decluttering
Mhm.
is. If they understand that clutter leaves you overwhelmed, paralyzed from getting anything done, which is everything for me, my husband
Yeah.
is way more likely to follow through on keeping things the way they are because he knows it makes me sane, because if I'm not sane, he's gonna be hearing about it
If mama
anyway.
ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Yes,
A
exactly.
smart partner understands that.
Yes, yes, but I think it helps, because I think for so many people, I yell at him all the time and he just steps over those socks and he steps over those socks. Well, if you're yelling at him to pick up the socks, you're not really helping him understand that those socks on the floor are an eyesore for you and they distract you from being able to get things done and it angers you, then maybe,
Yeah,
maybe he'll pick them up. No guarantees.
no
I
guarantees.
yeah. Okay, so I love hearing that because, I mean, for sure, I know
Most of the
people where they're
time, I
both
do
messy.
feel like if you live in a house with other people, you are almost always going to have to cater to the lowest common denominator there. Whoever is the messiest person in the house wins because even if you can get them to meet you like 20% of the way, like they're able to do better. They're probably still not going to reach the standard that you're hoping to achieve. So, part of the decluttering and organizing process is yes, editing your stuff, letting some of it go, and then getting organized, but also a certain amount of acceptance that people are going to be who they are, and there's only so much you're going to be able to change them. So, some of this work is very much internal and learning how to accept the things that you can't control because yeah, people can only do so much. I feel like some of us are
Right,
just not wired
right.
to be organized, and that's that.
And that's fine. Yeah. It's interesting you say that because I'm an only child, so I never shared a room. But sleepaway camp, I shared space with, I think most of the cabins had like 12 to 16 kids in them. And every morning you were supposed to make your bed and clean your stuff up. And they went up and they did cabin check while we were doing our first activity of the day. And you got a score. And, a score too low, and there are things that you have to do, and a score high, like you might win a pizza party. I can't even remember at this point. But it was the first time when someone else not cleaning up their mess affected me, and I was shocked by how I responded to that. I was not always what I would consider an organized person, but I had a passion for things being organized, and so, I was always reorganizing my books. I talk about that one all the time. Like, sometimes they were color coded, sometimes they were alphabetized by authors' names. And then I, for a very short period of time, had my books alphabetized by title. That did not work. It was hard to find things, but I tried it because I loved, trying new things.
Mhm.
And my husband lets me have the books color coded now, which makes me happy.
That's so funny, Melanie, because I've made the comment to my husband. I was like, if somebody ever tried to Roy G. Biv my book collection, I would not be happy. Because you've seen like the home edit. I love the home edit ladies, but they like to rainbow everything. And I was like, oh my God, I would never be able to find the book I was looking for if it was organized that way, as beautiful as it is.
I can find the books. My husband can't find them. But I'm also the person that sits and looks at things. Like back to that
Yeah.
conversation about appreciating what you have. There's a particular painting in the living room. I can sit on the couch and just look at her.
Mhm.
It's or a young girl in the painting. Talk about appreciating the things that you have. And so I know where most of the books are because I remember what color the spine is. And I know, I've already said Roy G. Bibbed the closets, but my drawers aren't, the kitchen isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I don't understand when it comes to books is the design aesthetic where they have the books backwards.
Oh,
So all you see are the
God.
like, really? You have nothing better to do than to forgive me for anybody listening who are like, "Well, no, I have my books like that." Books are meant to be read, so you need to know what the book is.
I think it
I
looks
also don't like
beautiful in a home that's been staged for sale because it's a nice design feature, but, like, that's all it is at that point is a design feature. It's not
right.
like, you're never trying to find those books again. Hi,
Okay,
everyone, this is Kingsley.
you who are listening, we're gonna have a quick conversation about cats. What's his name?
Kingsley.
Kingsley. Oh, I love it. I love it. And beautiful gray. Or is that
Yeah.
black?
It's gray.
Oh, and he's a
I made a
rescue.
mistake of scheduling this over his lunch hour, so that's why he's being a pill. My
And he's
bad.
a rescue, yeah? It looks like one of ears maybe snipped?
Yes, yes. For those who don't know, if you ever see a cat with a docked ear like that, he was part of a capture and release program where they picked him up, they neutered him, and they put him back out on the mean streets of San Jose. And then he was picked up a second time by somebody and brought to a cat shelter, which is where I found him. So,
There's nothing like a good rescue. Okay, well, we have 3 cats, and, one of them is sleeping on the love seat over there. I'm not gonna go pick her up. Maybe I'll do a whole episode where I just ask people to bring their pets, because pets make clutter. I did a
yes,
whole
they
video when
do.
we got rid of cat toys. I was just like, "Why do they have so many why do they have so many toys?"
Let's talk about
Anyway,
the
okay.
cardboard scratchers that are junking up the joint. Ugh.
We just switched using, like, literally only twine. It just the rest of the stuff drives me crazy, and the twine gets messy, but it's not quite like the corrugated
Yeah.
cardboard ones. Oh my god, what a
You know
mess.
what
Okay.
happens though when they get old? Their paws get more sensitive. Like he was all Cecil all the time, and he stopped
Mhm.
scratching on Cecil because his paws hurt. So we had to switch him to cardboard.
Mm. Alright, mental note. The oldest cat in my house is I think she's 7 or 8, so
Oh yeah, you have a ways to go probably.
yeah, and the other 2 or 3. Okay, so podcast about clutter. People who come on talk about clutter. You are organized and an organizer, so of course you have all your clutter under control, is what people are thinking. But I want to remind people when we talk about clutter, we're talking about the calendar, we're talking about the 24-hour news cycle, we're talking about social media, we're talking about commitments, we're talking about the imposter syndrome and the lies we tell ourselves
Oh,
that are not true. So, Stacey, what's your clutter?
ooh, yeah, probably imposter syndrome's a big one. I think everybody who's I was going to say every entrepreneur, but honestly, I've never talked to anybody who doesn't have imposter syndrome. But my part of my daily work that I've been doing for a while is kind of catching those thoughts as they're happening and replacing them consciously with something more productive.
Can you give an
Like,
example?
yeah, like sometimes I start something with a client and I have a thought in my head. I'm like, I've never done this particular thing before. So, like, what makes me think I'm qualified to do it? And then I think about other times in life where that, like, you don't know how to do anything ever until you've done it once. So there's a first time for absolutely everything. And sometimes, like, we kind of started with this, but it's like the client sometimes just needs a human to sit next to them and make sure the stuff gets done. It's not even that deep. Like, I don't need to make that big of a deal out of it and talk myself into
Mm,
incompetence. It's unnecessary.
right, right.
Kind of bringing myself back to other moments in life where I have completely slayed because I took a chance is really helpful. And also, like, even if I didn't have those experiences to draw on, there is no reason to jump immediately to this is going to fail. This won't work. They're not going to like
Right.
it.
Love
Whatever.
that. Love that. I mean, I haven't quite put it that way before, but you're right. Everything we do had a first time at some point. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing that we did and we started on the third time. We were just talking about it earlier. I was Zooming with someone who was celebrating that she finally got her 4,000th follower on LinkedIn.
Right
And we
on.
were all like, and I was like, okay. And she started talking about how it took longer than she had anticipated and she wished it had happened sooner and using all the shoulds. Don't use should, that's a clutter
Yeah.
word. But we were all like, do you remember the day when you had your first LinkedIn follower? You weren't on that day complaining, oh my God, I can't believe I'm only at one. Because you have to start at one, or you start at 0 and then you get to 1. So I really appreciate hearing that. That's fantastic. So before we finish up, is there something we missed? Is there something that you want to make sure that listeners take away from this episode today?
I'll just reiterate that if we're thinking about our legacy, like I know talking about death is really uncomfortable in our culture in particular because we have an absolute fixation and obsession with youth and we don't really like we think of aging and dying as a problem that we have to solve. And it's just so to me it's just so dumb because it is simply a transition from this particular form. I mean, we are energy. We are made of energy. I don't know what happens after we die, but I know that we cannot actually be destroyed. Our bodies can do whatever they do, but there's something else that goes somewhere. And I just feel like it's a transition when you're born and it's a transition when you die. And I don't think we should be making a BFD out of the death part. I think we should be talking about it and making it less of a problem that needs to be solved and more of a, well, since we know for sure, that's the only thing in life that we know for sure is that we're going to die. Let's put a plan in place so that you can be remembered the way that you would love to be remembered. So you have some control over that narrative. And then also, assuming you've got people you love, that you're leaving things behind for them, is it a house full of stuff that nobody will know what to do with, or and no plan? Or is it really clear instructions and, I don't know, a curated collection of a few cherished items that somebody will actually love to take off your hands? There's just I just encourage us all to think about that and to be nice to our people and leave them with some kind of plan.
So I love everything you said. You're right. We have not normalized the conversation around death and dying in a way that would be helpful. And when this first came to me, I think both of the kids were still at home, and we decided to have a conversation about it at dinner. Maybe the older one was just home for dinner. And as a result of the conversation, my younger daughter, who's 27, but I think maybe was like 18 or 19 at the time, and she was like, "Can you just make sure that when I die, they play Staying Alive?" I was like, "Is that what you want playing during the funeral, during a procession of some kind while we're sitting Shiva?" And it was like, I know she was trying to make a joke, but I appreciate that we can have that conversation.
Yeah.
And I'll use this as an opportunity because we've said it in episodes recently. This is a really great time to get history taken care of, whether it's through photographs,
Mhm.
digitizing them, or however else you support someone. I say also in videotaping
Yeah.
I guess it's not videotaping, I think it's just recording on your phone or whatever. The elders in your family, like, get the stories now
Yeah.
and get them before it's too late, because, the history should be, I would like to think that history is getting passed down. This is how my grandfather came to the United States. This is where
Yeah.
your grandparents grew up. Like, all of those stories, like, let's make sure that we're keeping them going. So thank you for talking about normalizing death and dying. I think it's so important, and it's not talked about enough. Stacey, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. You bet. Thank you for listening to Lighten Up the Art of Living Clutter Free. If this episode resonated, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use just a little bit of lightness. If you're ready for deeper support, you can work with me one-on-one or join my Lighten Up Clutter Free Mindset Group program. You can find all the details at my website, thoughtfullycoaching.com. Until next time, progress over perfection. Messy action is better than no action at all. So let's lighten up.